Welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today, we are honored to have Jacilet Griffin, who formed from custody to casket after her son was murdered in the Harris County Jail over a year ago. The Texas Rangers investigated his murder after the Harris County Medical Examiner's Office ruled his death a homicide. The sheriff's office continually lied about the circumstances, once even claiming he might have died from food poisoning, then claiming he might have died from a friendly game of slapboxing. Typical, typical, typical. First of all, Jacilet, I want to first, once again, give you my most sincere condolences. I know losing a child is extraordinarily difficult. So thank you so kindly for, first of all, talking to me. And secondly, the work that you're doing to make sure this kind of incident doesn't happen again, even as it continues to happen over and over again. So welcome to Politics Done Right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just appreciate the opportunity and Mr. Willies, just to be able to share and get more ears involved with the story. And my son's situation is more than a story, but it's my passion to share the story and to do everything within me as I've organized an organization to help others to reduce stories just like mine.
Well, before we even get started, please, Egberto, when you say Mr. Willies, I feel a bit old. So, yeah. But anyhow, seriously, now, before we even get started, tell me a little bit about your son.
My son, Evan Lee, was 31 years old at the time of death, the custodial death there in Harris County Jail. And Evan was a high school graduate, college grad, working citizen, just like everyone else. And he had some unfortunate health issues with mental health that was challenging him, but he defeated it by all means necessary. He still, in high school, he played football. He received awards in football, and he went to college, received many awards and academic. And also after that, he started to work doing something that he liked until his death. He was working 4 years on his job until his death, um, walking miles in the neighborhood to get back and forth to work because he was not a driver. Um, Evan had a car donated to him because they saw him walking a lot. Um, but at the time of his death, he was just getting everything set up, getting his driver's license, and he had his permit and everything, and had the car nice and shining and clean and ready to go. But Evan was a great person. Evan will give you the shirt off his back. And I really learned the most about Evan during COVID, when he will work, his hours and then come out in the neighborhood and help distribute food to the community and help the seniors in our remote area.
Was Evan ever a trouble kid? Was he ever in trouble with the law or anything like that? Or was he what got him involved with the criminal justice system?
Evan had a previous record of one incident of the same, but it was dismissed. But Evan wasn't a troubled child, if you will. Unfortunately, this particular incident that caused his death, Evan was walking on his day off and he was arrested by Arcola Police in Fort Bend County. And I got a phone call from them. They were asking if he had a probation officer. And of course, I told him, no, he don't have a probation officer. And the arrest record states that he looked like a escapee, and he was detained and held in Fort Bend County for 10 days and transported to Harris County. My understanding, it was an error in the system, but they were going to fix it from a previous case. And we end up having his life taken in the process of this error that was in Harris County system.
So in other words, he had no record to speak of. He was arrested because, well, in his case, I hate to say this, but it's too often walking while black to somebody looking suspicious. Am I accurate so far? That he was picked up not for doing anything illegal. He was just picked up because of maybe how he looked. Is that what it is?
Exactly. My son was profiled. And again, he did have a prior record, but this was nothing that was a repetitious record of him, in the past having.
Was he a violent person or anything of that sort?
No, he wasn't. Evan was 5'5.5", and would not harm a flea. And of course, protect himself, as I stated in a prior situation that he had with someone at a bus stop. But other than that, Evan was a very normal being, as I stated, trying to work to earn a living.
It is interesting because I think what you're saying is he's did what society have asked all of us to do. Before we get further, I don't want to harp on anything he would have done before, because I want to make a statement for our audience here. Every adult male, whether they live in Houston, Kingwood, or anywhere else, is at the behest of our criminal justice system. If there's a skirmish, if there's a fight, if there's whatever, it's at the discretion many times of a police officer. If they'll say, well, come on, shake yourself off, guys, go to your separate ways, go home. I see that happen a whole lot of times here in Kingwood. People get into little skirmishes, the police officers that want to create a record incident or whatever, go home. But with many of our black children or black boys specifically, the first encounter with a police officer, and the audience, I want you to understand this. When it comes to criminality and many other things, the way our criminal justice system does, BS in is BS out. If you go ahead and spend or harsher when you're dealing with one particular group and putting them into the system and not a particular group, one group may seem as if they have behaviors different than the other. So therefore, the reason I want to get this clear is we speak about a specific incident and what caused a specific incident. Now let's go to your son's incident for this particular issue. So he was arrested not for doing anything illegal, but just because of how he looked. Is that correct?
That's correct.
He was in jail in Arcola, then he was transferred to the Harris County Jail. I imagine that's what they do in the county.
That's correct.
And what happened, and how long did he spend in the Harris County Jail?
He was there for probably about 45 to 46 days.
Okay, let me back up again, because why was he in jail that long, both the 10 days that he spent in Arcola and 40-something days in Harris County, given that there was nothing to pin on him?
That's right. He was held, and I made so many phone calls to the courts, so they told me not to call back, that even though it was an error, the judge did not want to admit it was an error for the court system, but he needed to come before the judge. And every time they had a court date planned and scheduled, they are reset it. And I continue to reach out to so many different agencies trying to get him released. And it's my understanding that because it was an error, he still needed to see a judge for the judge to order him out of incarceration.
What kind of error can keep somebody that shouldn't be in jail for 40 days, over 40 days? What was that error?
Exactly. Um, at that time, I did not get any answers. All I got was he will be going before the judge and he will be released.
And
And
it,
I anticipated just that. I called so many different agencies. I got letters from our congresswoman. I got emails. I was struggling and pulling in every direction that I knew how at that particular time, trying to get answers and to get him out.
now, prosecutors, I believe, are the ones who have can actually uh, remove somebody out of jail that doesn't belong there if they want to, including putting on a no. Even if they let them out, they could easily let them out on a recognizant, especially if it's an error. Correct?
That's very correct.
Now, which district attorney would have been in charge of your son's your son's case? In other words, who's responsible? Is it the Harris County District Attorney or
Yes, the Harris County DA, Kim Ogg, is responsible for that action. Their office is responsible for that. Um, Definitely the DA and those right there, the prosecutors in those courts, they're responsible for that.
so it would have simply been a clerical effort to get your son out if anybody had any interest in getting your son out. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And had you ever approached Kim Ogg or any of her staff, given that it's known that there was some error within the computer that caused them to detain your son, uh, did they specifically know of your son's incident?
Definitely, they were aware. They refused to talk to me. I was not able to speak with them. And that's when I went to my Congress persons to get information on it as we continue to strive to get answers on getting him released. Time persisted, day after day. As I stated, the courts told me not to call back to the courtroom because many times when I call, I think they knew my number on the call ID and they would pick up and say, "Yes, Miss Griffin, we don't have any answers and we'll see him in court." And at that time, the judge will sign off and he'll be released.
I am, what is it that I don't know here, Miss Griffin? What is it that I'm missing here? A clerical error has occurred. Your son is locked up for over 40 something days. And during that 40 something days, you're constantly trying to get a district attorney who knows there is a clerical error or some sort of error to get your son out. And ultimately, he dies in jail. What am I missing here? To somebody on the outside, uh, it seems strange that somebody wouldn't have been saying, well, since the clerical, even though we need a judge to clear things up, let him out at his own recognizance. Is he a violent criminal that should not
That's
have
right.
been let out?
That's right. I totally agree with you, Egberto. It's very sad that this happens so many times over and over again, where you have someone there, rather it's an error or they have a, you know, character, dysfunction, whatever it may be, there's, people there, 80% of the people there are sitting in that jail, you know, that are not guilty of a crime, that they're sitting there for. but they have attorneys fighting for them. Their family is fighting for them, and yet you don't get answers. You don't get a response from the sheriff department nor the DA's office. You're not going to get a communication from them at all.
They just
And
become a number.
they're just a number, and I feel like it's prolonged on purpose, to hold these people there, just to have a number for the stakeholders, and not respecting the human beings and their rights.
Now, which was the congressperson that you contacted to help you out during that 40 days?
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, her office was very, very receptive, and they communicated with me as well as try to reach out to the sheriff department to get answers. And we did not get any. We didn't get any answers.
It seems to me like, again, shouldn't they have contacted, let's say, Kimog, and Kimog could simply sign off to get him out of there?
Definitely something like that could happen. It could have happened, but it didn't. As I stated, there was no communications between the DA's office. They did not respond to myself at all, and they did not respond that I'm aware of to Congresswoman's office as well.
Oh, I'm going to be blunt here. I'm going to be very blunt. It seemed like everybody failed you. In other words, the congresswoman's office may have been nice to you. Nice doesn't get somebody released. A job gets somebody released. The Kimog's office may have been, well, we have to wait. I think the entire system failed. I imagine you hadn't gone to the media with this before. Maybe you weren't media savvy back then. Is that correct, or am I?
I did not go to the media at that particular time, but of course, the day that I received a phone call that he was in a coma and not able to make a decision for himself at that time, I went to the media. And again, I went to the Congresswoman as well. And they gave emails, as I stated, to help me to try and see him. From the time I got the phone call from the hospital that he was not able to make a decision for himself, that's when I started, from that day to today, January 15, 2024.
This I'm just completely lost for words. I read the story, but hearing the story directly from you, and actually getting the details as far as, well, he was in jail for a clerical error. He was walking and picked up. I mean, it seems like one can mess with our liberty too darn easy. And I am glad, first of all, that you've created this organization from custody to Casket. Tell us a little bit about what's your intent going forward, because it seems to me like we do need advocates that puts the fire under these politicians. Because I'm gonna put it bluntly: had your son been somebody else,
Yes,
had your son
definitely.
been somebody else, this would not have happened. But he was not, as far as they're concerned, he was just a black body in that cell.
Correct.
And and I think those are things that need to be articulated. In other words, a lot of times we go around the panel and yeah, that's an injustice, etc. But I think he was treated as just that other. And it is very disconcerting, because in your son, I see something that can happen to me or anybody else's son who just doesn't get the attention of those who need to get the attention from.
Yes. Egberto, I feel that if my son was a different nationality, I don't feel that you and I would be sitting here in this conversation, unfortunately. But it's the world that we live in, and we have to accept it. And as a Christian, I accept what God allows, And I've just taken a step forward and never looking back. And I established Custody to Casket to help so many out there that I have been able to put my hands on and able to help in our criminal justice system. Those, especially the mentally ill, trying to get a bill passed that my state representative, Ron Reynolds, authored a bill for me, and we've been trying to push this bill to get it passed. It went across the House as we pushed it, but it got jammed up in the Senate at the end of our 88th session. But I have pushed and I'm doing everything that I can continuously to help those that are mentally ill. And my vision with this organization is to help those and help rehabilitate the mentally challenged and those that are incarcerated wrongfully, because by no means necessary, I feel that every single person, if they're breaking the law, then they should be free. No, that's not true. You know, I do believe in our penal system, I believe in structure, and I believe in disciplinary actions. But I just don't believe in detaining a mental ill person, especially being incarcerated. I think they should be detoured to get help and not be another number to assist with the stockholders and the stakeholders there in the jails. And with this organization, I've been able to help from many of those that have experienced the same as myself. I've been able to assist them with Christian advice, along with many other sources that I have through this organization.
Well, look, first of all, is there anything else that you would like to say that I may have missed, that I may not have asked you that I should have?
Well, yes, right now I would like to update um, since my son's murder in the Harris County Jail on March the 18th is when he was found in his cell. And I feel like no one should be found in a cell when you have a staff that's working. And also, uh, you didn't ask how he was murdered. He was murdered by officers there in the jail. And that makes it even worse that one of the staff members participated in the beating death of my son, Evan Lee.
So, do you have the videos of that? I imagine as well.
The video of his death has not been received. I am represented by Ben Crump LLC in a major,
Class action lawsuit.
it's not a class action lawsuit, but it's what we call a landmark lawsuit, where we have discovered about 21 other families that experienced the same thing that I did, and we decided to file on the same day. It's not a class action lawsuit, but it has been established and it has been filed in the Harris County Civil Courts. And my prayer is that we get some closure, because after 750 days I have no closure on what happened to my son. And I tried to get an autopsy for over a year, and I was finally able to get an autopsy.
They were denying you that ability?
I did not get an autopsy at all. I had to get an autopsy through someone and an agency. They refused as of today, Harris County Jail, the Sheriff Department of Harris County, have not reached out to my family. They have not sent us a postcard. And as I have met many other families that has lost their loved ones in this same agency, it is a routine action. And it's no accountability, no kind of respect at all for the families. And we understand that accidents happen, things happen. But once a person is deceased in your custody, in your care, we should not get a phone call from a hospital or a person from social media trying to find the family to say that, you know, your loved one is in the bed and not moving, and they just say that he's deceased. You know, this is the answers, and this is how people have been contacted. And I think it's very unacceptable and disrespectful to human race that a person is deceased in your care and you cannot reach out to that family to say at least just to say that they are deceased. They don't have to give details. And I understand if there's an investigation going on, but I do feel that they should contact the family in some manner to let them know what has happened. Because if I had not got a phone call from the hospital about my son, I don't know what or when I would have gotten a answer, or if they would have contacted us, you know, about my son being deceased. I don't know if Harris County would have reached out to us. And as I reached out to so many to try and see him in the hospital, you know, from a Saturday all the way to a Tuesday, you know, the doctors say, "We give up, Miss Griffin. We're going to advocate for you. Come on up and see your son." I got to the building at about 3 p.m. and they let us see him about 7 that evening. But when I approached him, I saw that he was on a ventilator, and that was not shared with us. You know, they just say he couldn't make decision for himself. And at that time, I was told that we are going to go ahead and send him to the morgue because he's already deemed brain dead. And I had an option to donate his organs and I could see him longer. This is one of the most horrible and horrific feelings that, you know, I have to relive and, you know, live a reality on a daily basis of this. It's very, very sad. But again, as I carry on Evan's name and created this organization and foundation to help others, it's what gives me great joy in all of this. And by me choosing to donate organs, we was able to save 2 lives as well.
Jacilet Griffin, first of all, I am so sorry for your loss, but I am happy that you're not just going to take it. I am happy that you're going to do something about it. And I'm happy that you're encouraging many others to fight against a system that can only be defined as evil for some. Evil for some. We've been speaking to Jacilet Griffin, who was formed from custody to Casket. She lost her son to the Harris County Jail. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share. Thank you so much. God bless you.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.